Brought to you by Alman Auctions, the worldwide leader in antique tractor auctions.
For 30 years, Dad worked on acquiring this tractor because he knew that there was an Avery farm close to Sterling, Kansas, which is about 50 miles straight west of here. You can still see the farm that has a big Avery sign in metal. It says Avery.
Wow.
And that's still there. I've just been on that farm last year. I visited with the guy.
Wow, wow, wow.
So anyway, there was a whole nest of Avery tractors, most of them gas tractors, but this one steam engine was there. And Dad tried to buy the tractors. They were, from 2550 to some of the smaller ones. There wasn't a 4080, but several of the smaller ones. And they're divided up between Dan Chris and Harold Ottaway, and I don't know who all got it. But this didn't sell at that time. And but for 30 years, he kind of kept asking the guy, you want to sell? No, I don't want to sell, it. And finally, someone passed away, and the estate sold, and the land sold. And the guy that bought the land was from out east, and he came out here to start farming in Kansas. And he ended up buying that property where this tractor was sitting on. And so Dad found out it was under new ownership, so then he had a new person to try to negotiate with. And that guy says, yeah, I'll sell it to you. So that's how Dad bought it. And this was just a few years after I'd finished the restoration on my return fleet. We got this thing home, and we didn't really know what we had bought. We thought we were just buying another Avery return fleet tractor. We start doing all the measuring, and it's the very same boiler, very same flywheel. Everything is identical to my 20 horse, but everything underneath the boiler is beefed up. Tires are taller and wider and heavier. The axle is heavier. The rear wheels are taller and have a third row of lugs, whereas my Avery has 2 rows of lugs and the wheel's only about this tall. And my gearing is not near that wide. My gearing's this wide instead of that wide. All this gearing is heavier on this, but the flywheel has the very same casting number. The disc, the crank disc on this one is just a few inches bigger. That's the only difference on the engine. So we start researching, and you can't find any record of this tractor. So that got our wheels turned as to, well, what is this all about? It was found on the Avery farm. You know the name Forrest Pence?
Mm-hmm.
Were you at his auction? Maybe you did his auction.
I wasn't.
Well, before he died, I learned about Forrest Pence, and this would have been in the 90s, I guess. And I'd already restored my engine, and I heard that he had a bunch of steam. So I jumped on my motorcycle. I drove all the way to Harvard, Nebraska on my motorcycle one day, and he wasn't home. The place was all locked up. I befriended a guy. I went downtown, went to the grain elevator, because I talked to somebody in town. He said, well, you need to talk to so-and-so. He works at the grain elevator. So I drove my motorcycle up there and walked in the office and met the fellow that says, oh yeah, he says, I take care of Forrest's stuff for him. Yeah, he's gone. He did this, that, and the other, and he said he's got it under lock and key. And I said, well, I'm a tractor collector, and I've restored an Avery. And so I kind of got his attention. And I said, boy, I'd sure like to see his collection. Well, he says, I'm busy here, and he's gone, and it's all locked up. And, talked to him 15, 20 minutes. He says, I'll just give you the key. You go out there and unlock the gate. You just take your time. He knew I couldn't haul much home on that motorcycle.
Right.
So he put his trust in me right there on the spot. I'd never met the guy before. That's Midwest for you.
It is.
So I thanked him dearly. I had the keys in my pocket. I drove out to Forrest Pence's place, and I had a good time. I walked around and went through the buildings, took pictures, and he doesn't have this tractor either. He had a top-mounted Avery, which I kind of drooled over. I like that Avery. But anyway, so I never did meet the man. I came back, locked up the gate, went back to the grain elevator, handed him the keys, and said thanks a lot, got back on my motorcycle and drove home. Well then, sometime later, I don't know, some years later perhaps, somebody was bringing Forrest Pence out to this area. And we got Forrest Pence on our yard. And this tractor is parked where that gray is parked now. We had it up against that building. Forrest Pence is an 80, I'm going to guess him to be in his mid-80s. Kind of a young, slender guy. And a pretty eccentric kind of fella. If you ever, did you meet him?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Well, I'd never met him before, and this is the first time I'm meeting him. So I don't know what to expect. I heard he was a bachelor and da-da-da, you know. So he gets out of the car, whoever was driving him out here. And from the car where we're parked by the house to that tractor, that man is like a 4-year-old kid that just went berserk. And he's saying, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I just can't believe it. Avery never made a tractor like that. That can't be an Avery. Oh no, I just don't believe it. And he didn't know whether to run or to do somersaults or to do a figure eight. And we're just standing there going, we've never met this man before. We don't know who he is. What's going on? And he just went beside himself with expletives, walking around. And he walked around, and he looks at this tractor. He says, Avery never made a tractor like this. Avery never made a tractor like this. I don't believe it. I can't believe what I'm looking at. I can't believe what I'm looking at. We finally got the man calmed down. He says, what's he says, I know everything about it. I got pictures of every Avery they ever made. Avery never made a tractor like this. So we started explaining the Avery farm and said, well, this is where we found it. And Avery had this experimental farm out there where they could, I guess from Peoria, Illinois, they could take stuff. They knew that farmers in Kansas had money. I'm just kidding, but you know, but it's a different, and it's sandy soil, and it's a different kind of terrain out there in that Sterling area. And all we can surmise is that Avery put together experimental tractor to manage the kind of soil type and sandy soil of the Sterling, Lyons, northeast and northwest of Hutchinson kind of ground. And this tractor ends up over there.
Wow. So
all we can say is this is a prototype, just an experimental, and nobody in my mind, and if Forrest Pence didn't know about it, who knows about another one like it?
Right.
So we think it's a pretty rare bird.
Yeah, I would say so.
You know, I'm just trying to be as honest as I can. Now we have some friends that live and farm, big time farmers, outside of Sterling, Kansas. And 2 summers ago, during wheat harvest, they sent us a video of their combine. They have the latest Case IH combine, big 45-foot McDonald headers and the whole bit. They're out there they'd had a rainy season, but it's dry enough to harvest. So the ground is dry on top. And it takes me a while to find that picture, but I've got pictures they sent me. That combine with dual wheels and rear wheel drive is driving along. And the next picture you see is this whole side of the combine is caved into the ground, clear up to the header. It's like this deep into that soil.
Wow.
And the ladder is bent. It just gave way. And there they are stuck. But there's no mud on the tread of the tires, like they'd been spinning in mud. Then they showed me a second photo of their grain cart, 1,200 bushel, 1,500 bushel grain cart behind a tractor, where one side caved into the ground, and it's sitting on its axle full of 1,200 bushel of wheat. And they captioned it something about a bad day at harvest or something. And I called the guy, his name is Mark. I said, Mark, what in the world? He says, it's our soil out here. He says, we have what we call undercurrent. And he said, after a rainy spell, it dries off on top, and you think you're good to go, and you might go fine, and all of a sudden, you're going to hit a spot. It's dry on top. You're not picking up any mud on your lugs, on your tires, and you just lose it.
Wow. Yeah, so it's a really unique...
And that's within a few miles of the Avery farm. I just learned that 2 years ago about this guy with his new equipment burying his stuff. And my mind is going, Avery farm, tractor with a third wider rim, big, heavy, still a 20 horse, not big for steam engines, 20 horse. But look at the wide wheel. And you know, there's an experimentation in undercurrent soil type at the Avery farm, sandy soil. That's all I can.
So
that's
they
all
were
I can
just
surmise.
trying to fix something that they ran into.
But those pieces have all come together in my mind saying that's why Avery did what they did.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
End of story, but it's interesting.
It is. It is.
It's interesting.